So this particular buffered reader is reading from system in. That's nice and all, but if we want to read from a file, we're going to have to do something different. Similar, but different. I'm putting this all into one example just to give you all the pieces you're going to need, and you're going to have to break it up into 4 different files. So keep in mind for this project, there's actually 4 different class files you're going to turn in, one for each of the 4 problems. So for this one, I'm also going to create another buffered reader. But the difference is if I want to read from a file, I need a new file reader. And a file reader takes in a file. So I'm going to name mine input.txt. And I'm going to put the stuff I'm reading in from that instead of from down here in the command line. So it's similar to the system in, but it requires a couple of different readers. In particular, what it needs is a new file and a new file reader. So in I/O, you're also going to need file reader and file for this particular one. So one question might be, this input.txt, where do I put that so it knows where that is? It's actually going to go in the same place your src and your bin folders are. It's not actually going to go where your Java is, inside of the source, but it's going to be outside of that. So if I go into my workspace, into my counting problems, it's going to be here where my source and bin folder are. So if I just create a new text document, input.txt, this is text. So I just put some text into a text document, and then run this. It tells me how many things were in that text file. So just to show you that real quick, I'm in my folder, which is my project folder, where the source and bin folders are, and I put my text file there. That's where it starts by default to look for any kind of text files. So inside of my buffered reader, I put a new file reader with a new file and the name of the text document I'm looking for. That allows me to read in from a file. Hopefully that will help you with 3 and 4. All right. The last thing I want to show you, it has to do with something called an array. So right now I'm using one integer to keep track of all the letters, integer letters. If I'm going to be counting up all of the individual alphabet letters, such as how many A's, C's, E's, H's, so on, I'm going to need at least 26 slots. And rather than making 26 different variables, which I could do and would work, I'm a lot lazier than that. I would like to make it so I could just use something that automatically keeps track of that. So let me make a quick example up here at the top just to show you what an array looks like. So if I have an int array named array, which has 3 things in it, I've just created 3 slots in an array. They are numbered 0, 1, and 2. So if I do array 0 equals 15, array 1 equals 20, array 2 equals 40, I can then print these things out. So if I print out array 0 plus a space plus array 1 plus a space plus array 2, 15, 20, 40. So it has those 3 slots. Basically all I'm doing is I'm creating a whole bunch of storage spots under the same name. Notice that these are square brackets. So this uses all 3 types of things. We have curly braces, which say which blocks they are. You have parentheses, which have methods, if statements, and while statements. And then arrays use square brackets. Now, by itself, this is not real useful. What's more useful is if we have some sort of loop where we replace these numbers with a variable that we keep using for a counter. For example, if I say int a equals 0, a is less than 3, a equals a plus 1. And I'm going to print out array bracket a. So this loop goes through and prints out each one in order. And I didn't have to specify here the 0, the 1, the 2. It just keeps going until it reaches the end. So what I'm eventually going to do is I'm eventually going to put 26 different slots in this thing. So this sets up how many there are, and then you can fill it in like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use those different slots as counters. So the 0 slot is going to keep track of how many A's there are. The 1 slot is how many B's. The 2 slots how many C's, and so on. So anytime I see an A, I'm going to add 1 to the 0 slot. I think that's probably enough for you to absorb for now. So I'll come back to this later on. For now, what you should probably try doing is seeing if you can get a basic buffered reader that reads from the input. Try seeing if you can read from a file. And then if you get those done, try creating an array with 26 slots in it. See if you can do something with that.